when you don't have any money and sponsors don't believe in you, it's hard to pay someone. So you're asking someone to put up their hand and volunteer. And this was going to be a 7-week campaign and sacrifice and on the road away from your family.
Just wait to see what opportunities present themselves. With his career, they're so random. These random things come up that it's like, we just don't really know. So
be game ready.
Yeah, game ready. Just like we said, the opportunity presents itself. We're game ready.
In today's social media obsessed world, we all see the successes, the world record breaking, and the achievements of the people we look up to. But what we don't see is what goes on behind the scene. Hosted by power couple Dean and Alana Stott, this show is dedicated to asking difficult questions while discovering the support systems and people behind those we love and respect in media, business, athletics, and high-performance culture. Dean and Alana believe that through honest communication, teamwork, and mutual respect, that anything is possible.
Like, there's not a better partner I could choose who's equally as crazy as me, because we have a chip on our shoulder to prove people wrong, and to prove ourselves right.
I can go be the face of this. I can go do this, but I don't understand the back end of this. I have to learn business. I have to learn how this works.
Many couples in this dynamic are stuck and unable to move forward in an identity crisis.
Marcus's energy is so bad. I feel like I need to cleanse my house. It's suffocating. And then seeing him 24 hours later, he was as light as air. Yeah.
And we literally embraced, hugged. I stepped back and I said, this is exactly what the guys need.
When we can look behind the scene and learn from each other, we can finally move forward and transform into our fullest potential.
I think you're right though, James. I think today's society, we see it is that, and we get messages. I get a lot of messages. Alana gets messages. I want to be in the special forces. What do I need to do? How do I get in? How's that? They don't see the hard work that goes in behind the scenes. Everyone thinks it's one pill that you take and then you're automatically at the finishing line, or you're automatically successful. But yeah, it's a common theme in society today. As you call it, game ready. I love that. I call it showing up, or taking the risk as well. Some people nowadays don't want to take that risk. Well, what if I fail? It's like, don't worry about that. Just keep heading forward. But
I would just, while we're on that subject, and I really want to ask, and I'm seeing this togetherness, I'm seeing that was there friends and family who were saying, why don't you just get a proper job? Why don't you just be normal and do things that everybody else does? Did you experience that?
All of them.
Okay.
Only my parents didn't. Every other human being that knew us said that. My parents were the only ones in the entire world who did not say that.
And how were you able to react? And probably as a recent experience, obviously Dean's right now, we're filming from Israel, when we seen what happened on the ground there, which is natural for Dean and I to say, right, you need to go. That's it. You're off. And, within 24 hours, he was on the ground working. And I'll have friends and family say, why do you do it? Why do you do that? Why would you think about doing that? And my answer now is often, if you have to ask, I can't give you the answer. Does that kind of give you the same feeling between you guys?
100%. Other people can't see your vision. And the reason that we have our perspective is because of the experiences and knowledge and things that we've gone through to gain this perspective. And anytime we announce these new projects, people are like, oh my gosh, that's impossible. Like if they're hearing it for the first time. But for me specifically, it was always the next natural part of the progression in the journey. And so it didn't seem like a big jump, but a lot of people now are seeing headlines and say, oh, that guy's genetically gifted. That team
people who don't know you
is unstoppable, but they don't realize that it started with a 4-mile fun run that I suffered through. And over 20 years, we were able to do 100 consecutive Ironmans. And so one of the things I like to talk about and impress on people is like, you can't go from 0 to 100.
Special forces, right?
You can't go from 0 to 100. Yeah. Now, had I had the goal, had I had this wild imagination and dream after my first Ironman and said, I think I can do 100 Ironmans. That's a great goal. it's an appropriate goal if I give it the time, respect, and have all of the benchmarks along the way in order to get me there. That would have still been a great goal had I been able to dream that big. I would have just had to say, I need 20 years to get there.
Well, it's like a child that wants to be an astronaut, right? They don't go from second grade to being an astronaut. They got to go through all of elementary, middle, high, college training. You know, for me, it was shocking because I've always been like a rah cheerleader. It didn't matter what you were doing. I was like, yeah, that's great. You can totally do it. Let me know how I can help you. So when James had these aspirations, I was really surprised and quite hurt that so many people were so negative about it. I was like, I've never told you couldn't do anything. You know, how come you're coming in here and telling us? And then a lot of people rode high on our suffering. So they loved seeing the suffer. They loved the, we told you this was a bad idea. And I never understood that because I was like, why would you not want somebody to succeed? And of course that progressed to where through the 50, there was a lot of that from people who we knew to family, to strangers. I could not conceive that anybody would have that mindset. But on the other hand, there were random strangers through our entire journey stepping in to support us. So it's all about that focus, right? Do I choose to focus on the people who don't, like Alana saying is, if you can't understand why he would take off, then I don't even want to have this conversation with you because you shouldn't have to ask. And those are the people that it's like, I don't have time for you. I have time for people who send love and blessing,
Yeah.
We've learned that relationships are a privilege and are a two-way street. And we've just stopped giving energy to people that were only taking our energy and not creating kind of this, business win-win.
It's love and blessing. If you're not sending love and blessing and support, it's like,
Yeah, and do you have an understanding of that mindset now? Because it's something that I think Dean and I have talked about over and over again. And I think that we've come to different conclusions as to why, firstly, some people don't support. Secondly, they almost, as you say, relish in the failure. When anything does go wrong, that's almost like, it's like a dopamine to them. Have you ever understood it, or have you ever researched it, or do you just completely?
Sure. So my college degree is in psychology. So it's like, that's the part I love, is dissecting that type of behavior and, analyzing different people who do it for different reasons. But ultimately, so whether they're insecure or whether they're jealous or whether they just don't believe in good, positive things, they're all still in that same box of like, well, you guys can stay over here with the other curmudgeons, and the cheerleaders and the happy and the sunshine can be over here.
And I simply don't understand it. I don't have time for it. I don't have energy for it.
I want to break it down. He's like, I'm at the back of the room observing. Don't have time.
Don't have time. I say this to Sunny quite often. I'm like, we're on a rocket ship and you're either getting on board with this and keeping our pace, or you're going to fade off into the distance. And so like we are going somewhere, and it's spectacular and it's amazing. And on our way there, we're going to find people that are moving just as fast as our rocket ship.
In their own rocket ship.
They're going to jump on, and we're going to have a party on this rocket ship, and then we're going to be at the top together. And if you can't keep pace, that is not my problem, not my care, not my worry. My focus is becoming the best version that I can be, so that I can support the best version of what she can be and impact our kids in the greatest way, so that they enjoy this world and experience, not feeling judged or criticized, but honoring their authentic selves to have an amazing journey and experience that we've been able to have. Now, yes, that comes with suffering and challenges and adversity, but that is the whole point of life, is to experience those things so that you can adapt, evolve, grow, and continue to have amazing experiences.
You guys have a rocket. We use the phrase the high-speed train, so I might actually change it because rocket sounds
That's because we don't have a lot of trains in Utah.
There you go.
You guys have lots of trains where y'all are from.
I don't think we have any rocket ships either, but we're on one.
I'm just saying his first thought is a train,
We that's how we got introduced to the Iron Cowboy, actually. So we did our challenge. I'd never cycled before, cycled 20 miles and applied for the world record for the world's longest road. So 14,000 miles. And we did it for charity, broke 2 world records, became the first man in history to do it under 100 days at the age of 40. And then we were also being bombarded with love and then also hate as well. People just trying to pull it apart. And that's why people said, these guys are just like you. They are being pulled apart for things that aren't even true. And my sort of theory into this, you've obviously heard the crab in the bucket. Have you heard about the crab in the bucket? It's like that. There's three types of people, and I may be wrong, Sonny, you're a psychologist. There's three types of people. There's those that know that they will never be able to achieve something like what James has done or what I did on the bike ride or anything else. And so they give you the full praise. And there's other people who it's well within their reach and they praise you as well because you're pushing the boundaries. And there's the group in the middle who have it within them to do it, and if they would just take the risk. But what they don't like is when you step from that middle platform to the top platform and they want to pull you back down. And that's the group I tend to find. Yeah.
Well, it's funny to me too, because I was like, well, let's all do it together. We can all do this together and it's all going to be great. And then I'm like, why are all these people being so grumpy and so rude? Like, I couldn't conceive being so like pulling people down, being grumpy, diminishing someone's dreams and aspirations. I could not conceive that. So that definitely took some transition time. And as I got older and wiser and had more experience and we got further down the road, then I could understand why their insecurities like literally ruled their life. Mm-hmm. And so it's been interesting. Our social circles have changed dramatically over time. And I think that comes with age too. A lot of people joke about your two friends when you're in your 40s instead of the 25 you had in your 20s. But it's manifested very true for us. Like we know who our truest and deepest friends are based on the journey and the way they supported us.
Yeah, and I don't think your friends need to be as crazy as you either. I mean, most of the friends that are our support team, they're like, you're nuts, but we love you. That's it. And that's...
Well, they can live vicariously through it, right? Exactly. Enjoy it, but not have to suffer.
Exactly. So we're now at the stage. So we've done the 50 marathons, and you're coming to them. I'm interested in
the Ironman. 50 Ironman.
Sorry. The support team. How did you select the support team?
It really, we got lucky with that. I joke from stage and say I started to put together my team, and it was my 5 kids under the age of 12 and my wife that put up their hand because it was so big, and it's hard to ask adults, when you don't have any money and sponsors don't believe in you. It's hard to pay someone. So you're asking someone to put up their hand and volunteer. And this was going to be a 7-week
sacrifice
campaign and sacrifice and on the road away from your family. And I was one of my, Casey, one of the wingmen, I was racing him a lot and we became friends. And Aaron, I was actually coaching Aaron. And Casey's a 2nd grade school teacher. And we chose to do the 50 during the summer so that my kids were out of school and they could come with us. We wanted to make sure to involve the family. And Casey always would teach during the summer to try to earn some extra income. And so when we were able to offer him the same amount, he was like, I'm in. And he loves adventure. Like, dude loves adventure, and is super supportive, super outgoing.
He's an endurance athlete. So
and an amazing
familiar
athlete. So,
with it. Yeah.
And then Aaron was young and single and kind of working at just a sporting goods store. And I convinced him to quit his job. And he was also up for a huge adventure. And these 2 young men became the wingmen. And
they didn't even know each other.
They didn't know each other. And
we're like, here, get married for the next 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Together, and they didn't even know each other.
And we've just become the best of friends. And we literally got so lucky with them. And they're disasters in their own rights. But they quickly adopted our mindset. And neither of them are quitters.
None of us had the same disasters.
Yeah.
So it was like everybody
that was the beauty of what we'll call the 4 horsemen. Is everybody had their moments on the journey, and every member of the group allowed that one person to have that moment as long as it didn't last forever and pull other people with you.
Yeah, we'll take your load while you fall apart for an hour. And they reconvened, And
so we gave everybody permission to have those moments as long as it wasn't a pity party, and then you came back to task. And the entire group really adopted the mindset of we're solution oriented. And we're going to keep chipping away and solving the problem until it's done. And the only option is to continue to find answers to the questions or problems that we were having. And people ask me now, how do you put a good team around you? And I would say, find the best two or three or however many candidates you can, put them under a very stressful situation
with no sleep,
and then ask them to perform at a high level.
You see the special forces smiling down there? He's like, boy, sleep and then see what happens,
because
right?
You'll agree with this. Everybody's great on paper and everybody's great when they're great, but you need your ultimate team to be great when conditions are the worst. And so if you can try to simulate that, your leaders will present themselves to you. And then you give your energy to those team members and you cultivate them and you really start to ingrain your mindset and your belief system as what your entire team ethos is. And these guys just really performed under pressure. And again, everybody has those disastrous moments, which we all did. But they really stood out. And we've been, brothers since then. And we do every adventure together. Aaron and I were on the world's toughest race on TV, and Casey and I have done a ton of racing together. And the three of us try to find as many adventures as I can. And in fact, when the 100 became a possibility, it was literally a half a second response from both of them. We're in. What do you need? When do we start?
James was like, let me text Aaron and Casey, not let me ask them. It was like, let me send the message.
Yeah, I already knew the answer. Yeah. And like, even today, like it's been 2 years since the 100, which we'll talk about in a second, but it's been 2.5 years. And they're like, I can tell they're both itching. Like, James, are you ready to suffer?
Come on, James.
We doing this thing? Like they know that it's going to be me, the one that does the big thing.
And that's them living vicariously through him too, right? It's like they don't have to do it. They can be a part of it and get as much of a thrill.
We're going to be releasing the new documentary about the 100 shortly. And it is just so spectacular to watch those two in their element and
being themselves.
And the four of us work together as a team to really make the impossible happen.
And do you feel that, as you progress, you did your 30, you did your 50, you did your 100, and you keep achieving that, you set the bar and you have to do something even more impressive or actually come back down below the bar? Because that's what I find with the stuff that I do. People are like, what's next? And it has to almost outshine what you've previously done, which is difficult. But also, I think Alana gets upset with this, is that people almost expect you're going to do it now. So you're a character now that you're like, well, he's a machine. He's going to do it. Of course he's going to do it. You still sweat. You still cry. They still got to put all the effort in, and people don't see that. And I know Alana gets upset with my one. It's like, well, he was special forces. It's like, yeah, but he'd never cycled before. Only 99% of the special forces can't do that. But do you feel under pressure because of what you've achieved that you have to achieve and raise that bar? Because I sometimes feel like that.
Yeah, I used to, but I believe now I'm fully satisfied, and I'll elaborate on that. And it's funny because I speak a lot. I do 60 plus events a year around the world, and every first question every time I'm done with my presentation in a Q&A is, "What's next?" And I get a huge laugh when I say this, and I always say,
he used to hate it.
I used to hate it. Now I joke with it.
Hated it, and he's like, "How is it not enough?" And now he's like, "Okay, how can I move with that?" Right?
And on stage, I always say, do you want me to die? That whole thing. And I've just learned that what's next doesn't have to be in the same category, and it can be something different that pushes us in a different capacity. And for me, I've shifted my focus to now helping other people achieve what their version of the Conquer 100 is, and helping them get out of their own way. And that's equally as challenging for me and pushing me in a way. And I've also realized, like, because we've been doing this for a very long time, and because of the mindset that we've cultivated through experience, I truly believe I can go do anything. Like, if somebody said, can you do 200 consecutive Ironmans? The answer is unequivocally yes. But I always have to ask myself two questions now going forward. What's the sacrifice it's going to take to achieve that goal? And what's the uptick or benefit to myself, my family, my community, and those around me? And if I can't make those two things align, the answer is going to be no. But I can. I have that deep-rooted belief that I can go do any big challenge, but I have to ask myself those two questions. And if they don't align, the answer is no. But really now, I'm still doing racing and challenges, and I always want to try to become physically and mentally better. And you learn that's where growth happens is through those challenges and adversity. It doesn't mean you always have to be in a state of suffering, but you have to continually visit that in different ways so that you learn and grow. And so now it's really shifting my focus to helping other people learn how to do that, which is challenging to be able to do. It's just a different part of growth.
Yeah. And for people listening, Sunny and James, what do you think, for all the people that you've seen, all the people that you've worked with, all the coaching that you've done, the limitations on people, what do you see most of? Is it physical or mental?
Always mental. Always. It's never physical. Because even if it's something physical, it's something they've created mentally to justify, backing out or whatever, psychosomatically, like creating an injury so they can justify it. Like James wanted to create an injury every day. He's like, please, anything just break so I can quit, because he was in so much pain and then nothing broke. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll get up again tomorrow. But it's 100% people in their minds. Yeah,
it's mental. And there's always that gap, right? So once you start dreaming big and you start to perform, the body takes some time to get in line with what the mind is telling it to do. And so there's that lag. And most people don't give it enough time for the lag to catch up, because when the body and mind are in unison, that's when magic happens. And they lose belief at some point in time on the way. And, we're both saying that it's mental, but it's 100% physical and 100% mental. And what I mean by that is, if I'm the most mentally tough person on the planet, but I'm 300 pounds, I mentally cannot drag myself fast enough to accomplish this goal. Because you hear a lot of the Navy SEALs and they're like, hey, you've got 40% more when you think you're done. That means you can drag your body 40% more, but not necessarily the speed or pace that you need to. You can survive for 40% more. You can't mentally say, okay, I'm going to break the 2-hour marathon and mentally will my body to do it. And so when I say you have to be physically and mentally at 100%, you have to be physically enough to match what your mind is telling you to do. And then also, if you're a physical specimen and the most tough, robust person on the planet, but you're really weak mentally, it doesn't matter how physically strong and able you are, like the most gifted person. If you're weak mentally, it doesn't matter either. And so the real magic happens, the real success happens when you can get your mind and your body to align. And then I'll finish it off with, it has to be under the umbrella of spirituality.
No, amazing. I go on, Alana. You got something?
Yeah, no, what I often compare it to, just as a woman, is we think that we've got these limitations on pain thresholds. And if I said, I'm going to put you through the most pain you've ever been in your life, and I'm going to push you that little bit further. And I think childbirth is a key example of it, that when, Sonny, you'll know the experience, the head's out, their shoulders still to come. I can't do it. This is too much pain. I quit, leave her where they are. Like, we're not doing it. It's not happening. Well, tough. You're having this baby and it's coming out, and your mind might be telling you it's not happening, but your body has this amazing ability to keep going. And then you're going to do it, and you're going to be a champion, and this baby's coming out, and then you're going to forget all that pain that you were ever in. And I think we forget that as human beings, is we do have that extra bit of strength. And sometimes our mind can play games, but you're absolutely right. If we can put them together and get them working, just, there's no point in just training your body completely if you're not training the mind as well. So building them together is key. So 100% agree.
Well, and I think too, women have obviously the gift of childbirth, but the gift that we may not be recognizing is, once that happens, it's happening. And so you're forced mentally to adjust the expectation through pain. And as men who can't have that experience, we have to conjure up ways in order to gain the experience so that we can move our comprehension level through pain. And, this past weekend, I had an opportunity to run the Chicago Marathon with a young man that has Down syndrome. And he broke the world record for doing all 6 of the world marathons. This was the final one. And he needs a guide. And his dad was explaining to me that individuals with Down syndrome have a very low pain threshold. And when it's a 1 or a 2, they perceive it to be an 8 or a 9 when really it's super low. And we know that because when we're running, he's running at a 120 heart rate. Like he's in zone 1 or 2 and he's very capable of going, but he just perceived it as a high pain. And so they've been taking him through this process and changing the way that he perceives pain. And that's making him more mentally tough. And so again, that showcases how important the mental side of interpreting pain is. And as men and downs or whatever it is, we have to intentionally put ourselves through uncomfortable situations to learn that. And women have this gift of like, this is happening and I have to develop that mental toughness and strength right now because I don't have a choice. The pain is going to increase.
Yeah. Interesting about the mental and the physical aligning. When I was doing a challenge, and I did other challenges before, I always find it was like the 10 days, just get past the first 10 days. And then your body will then be in sync with your mind. There's a lot of people I see when I do challenge or people doing challenges. It's always that first week that they tend to drop off. Once they've gone past that first week, you can see that connection with the body and the mind, and then they're gone unless an injury stops them.
That's that gap I was mentioning.
Yeah, the gap that's connecting. For me, when I did my challenge, my motivation was we raised $1.4 million for mental health. That was the motivation for Alana's side. My motivation, I said I wanted the world record because it gave me something to aim for, to get me out of bed in the morning and train. So do you have a focus when you're doing this? You said earlier, it has to be, the two things have to align. It has to be good for your family or the charity before you even do it. You're not just going to go do a challenge for the sake of doing a challenge.
What keeps you going?
He's asking you.
No, both of you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because
you go first, James.
I don't think about it. I just get up and do it.
Yeah. And for anybody that's trying to achieve something big, if it's just to achieve it, that oftentimes it's not enough. And, we talk about having a bag of whys and multiple reasons why you're doing something. And ultimately you have to attach something very emotional or emotionally charged that is greater than just, I'm going to do this, or else it's not going to be big enough. You're not going to do it. And for me personally, when I'm in those big moments, I feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders and it feels impossible and you're backed into a corner. You feel isolated. That's dark. Anybody can be perfect for 1 second. And so in those darkest moments, you have to be so hyper focused, like realize you can turn the pedals over one time.
Yeah.
You have to get to the point where it's like, is the next step going to kill me? And if it's not, then I'm going to keep going until that's not an option. And you have to have that mindset, and to have that mindset, you have to make it connected to something that's more emotional or bigger than yourself. And so nobody can convince me that you can't be perfect for 1 second, even in your darkest moments. And then as you start to put and stack multiple seconds together, now you're creating momentum and you're creating stacking wins. And that's how you restart the process, because every moment of everybody's journey is not going to be the darkest moment. There's peaks, there's valleys, there's ebbs and flows, there's good moments, there's bad moments. And you just have to be perfect for 1 second in those bad moments. And then it's easier on those ups. It's just in those downs that you really need to hyper focus and like I said, have that bigger purpose or reason why.
Yeah. And I think, one of the things I saw from Iron Cowboy, Sonny, relatable to Alana, is the fact that, when I was on the bike, I was very lucky I had Alana because all I had to do was train. She actually said I had the easiest job. I had to cycle 14,000 miles because she was running the campaign, she was running the fundraising, she was running the family, running the business. And that's what I saw that came through the screen was the similarities between Alana because, James, we don't want to be distracted when we're on our challenge. We've got enough pressures anyway. And so I'd probably love to talk more, or Lana probably love to talk more to you, Sonny, on that, how you manage to juggle the family life, running the campaign as well. And sometimes think, why are we doing this?
I'll start with this and Sonny can answer the question. It was one of the most impressive things was Sonny stepping in, because I had said, look, I'm going to plan the whole thing. I've got sponsors. It's going to be great. You can just come and have 50-day vacation with the kids, and you just have to make sure they're having a blast. That didn't happen. It fell apart super quick. And
he means like day one.
And yeah, probably day one.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
And the reality is Sonny recognized this is my future too. And if I don't step in and fix this, then we're back to square one. And so it's super impressive, her having no knowledge of any of the planning, because she leading up to the 50, she was graduating with her psychology degree, because I had promised her, like, everything's taken care of. Don't worry about it. You just get your degree, graduate the week before, and then it'll be a summer vacation for you and the kids. And it ultimately didn't turn out that way. And the workload, the catch up she had to do so quickly. And then the workload was insane. And you're right. We had the easier job. Like, they're different jobs, but like, I had to focus on one thing, and it's what I had to do. And she had to solve every problem that happened.
But I think it's hard too, because I think systematically. So I think like I'm like obsessed with efficiency. So if I'm going to go run errands, I say to myself, what order am I going to run these errands to make them the most efficient? And I don't need to do that now, but for the majority of my life, I had to do that because I had all these tiny little kids, and James has always traveled for work. And so I've always had to figure this stuff out all on my own. So I always think systematically, like, okay, what's the best way to do this? And how, I mean, every moment of my life is like this well-oiled machine. So when I didn't help with any of this planning, because I was like, I can't handle, there's, a lot more complexities than just being in school, but I was like, I can't add that to my workload. You have to do this on your own if you're doing it. To not be a part of that planning and to hand over that control and then to have that collapse was like devastating. That's when you say to yourself, this is why I don't ever hand over control, right? Because it's like, you allow somebody else to do it. You allow it to happen a different way. And then the whole thing collapses and you're like, what was I thinking that I could trust other people to handle this when they totally couldn't? So showing up in Hawaii and having that day be different than I expected, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I just thought it was going to be different. And then for that to progressively get worse to the point that I was like, we're in big trouble. So to jump in and just turn everything into a systematic formula, but then to have so much resistance. And so it's like, it's crazy that people know this isn't working, but then I come in and try to create systems. Everybody has this cow. And
are you listening, Dean? Are you listening?
For real, it's like, what was I thinking always? And then you let your guard down a little bit and you say, okay, I'm going to trust this person. And then they don't do it and it falls through. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do everything myself. And then you trust somebody else and then it falls through. And you're just like, is this just going to happen every day? Do I have to just maintain control of everything? But at the same time, you can't. So it was a really interesting journey for me because I was willing to step outside of where I was comfortable with and to hand over some of these controls only to have it slap me in the face with a giant fish, where I was like, so that was really hard. So then going into the 100, I was like, everything has to be done my way. And then nobody did anything my way. And I was like, screw it. These world records are a joke, But part of James's personality is flying by the seat of his pants, And I'm like, I don't want to live like that. You're okay living by that like that. So partway through the 100, I was like, well, I'm going to stop putting in so much effort because he doesn't care. So if he doesn't care, then I don't care. But I mean, being the support is, you can't even fathom. It's nothing like swimming, biking, or running. Like, that's the fun part, right?
Yeah.
And did you feel, so you mentioned there that the resistance was something that you first encountered. Was that coming from, obviously it was coming from the team, but was James supporting you, supporting the team? Because I think that's a difficult position to be in as well, because you're coming in there going, this needs change and I need to change it. Your people.
And everybody says, we're not listening to you. We only listen to James. Yeah. And I'm like, so then I try to get James to collaborate with what I'm doing, but James has no brain cells. And so it's like, it was utter chaos all the time. Like, and the wingmen were always awesome. They were always looking to me like, what should we do? They don't want to solve the problems. They have these two cheerful, easygoing personalities. They're like, we're not making any decisions. We're always looking to you. But anybody else that was involved, there was always resistance. And I was like, man, my kids don't resist like this. My kids are like, yeah, mom, whatever you need us to do, however you want us to do it. Like they see the systematic formulas where I'm like, I get these adults that are resisting and I'm like, and who knows better than what he needs in his wife? Well, for some reason, people didn't get that, So it was really hard. It was really hard to step in and to not know anything and have to figure it out and then have to be in charge. And then everybody thought I was a monster because any girl with confidence in this world is a monster,
Yeah. And then does that continue now? Obviously, you've done the 100 and whatever it is you're doing now. Is that still a ongoing factor that you're going to be the one who's coming in to sort it?
Let's just say this. We've married a long time. James always sees the optimistic side. I always see the realistic side. He always thinks I'm being bossy. And I let him do it his way. And then I say,
told you so.
We needed more structure. We needed this figured out better. And he's like, yeah, but who cares? I'm like, just different personalities as far as how we go about our movements in life.
I think we're looking at it as the family. We've got, we're losing the husband to this challenge or this adventure or whatever is going on. So as James says, it needs to work for everyone. So the other people involved, if they don't want to play the game, your tolerance for that isn't very high. Whereas with Dean and James, I think on the ground, they want to keep everyone happy and they don't want everyone necessarily like
that is so
told off by mom. Yeah.
I'm like everyone's best friend and Alana's the bitch.
You could not have said those words better. That's exactly what it is. They're like, we got to keep the peace. I'm like, there's no peace. You could not have said that better.
Awesome. And now that those ones are over, James, how do you feel about that support network? Do you think anything that's happened could have been done without Sunny?
Oh no, I give her tons, if not all, the praise from stage and in anything we do. In fact, anytime I'm done presenting or something, they say, "We're confused. We thought you did these races on your own. You keep saying we." And I'm like, yeah, I was the only one doing it, but I couldn't have done it without everybody. In fact, I now say I'm not the Iron Cowboy. We're the Iron Cowboy. And it's a brand that stands for something, not an individual.
Mm-hmm.
People say all the time, do you think James could do these races like without you, like mentally? I'm like, no, I am his mental stability, right? Like that's what a partnership is. I mean, if he was single and he didn't have a family and he was just doing challenges on his own, different story. But it's like you develop this, and you guys know this, you develop this relationship of trust together that you really, if you have a healthy relationship, you really lean on each other. And it's those moments that you really have to sink in to the couple that help you stay focused on what you're doing. Because to me, I don't care about these projects. They're not mine. I don't care. But they matter to me because they matter to him. And if they don't work out the way he wants them to, I live with his regret the rest of his life. And I don't want him to be miserable. But to me, they're nothing, right? So it's leaning into that couple relationship that I think really helps the execution of these go off without a flaw.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I heard that recently. I was watching the David and Victoria Beckham. Have we just lost Dean?
He said, I need to drop off in 10, but will something.
Okay. Yeah, probably expected. I probably got him longer than we thought we would. But yeah, I think the thing that she said was, she was like, I don't care about football. I care about David. Like football means absolutely nothing to me, but whatever he's doing, I'm interested in because I love him, and that's the way it is. So I think that's really beautiful. I don't think Dean's actually going to be able to get back on again. I didn't obviously want to bump this because we've rescheduled and moved it so many times, and Dean was fine in Ukraine, and I think it was a good time to catch him. So our last question always just ends with what is your purpose, really? So can I ask that to both of you? What is your purpose?
Go ahead, James.
Initially I was trying to find my mental and physical limits and just be a good example. And now it's kind of shifted to helping people get out of their own way and win the conversations they're having with themselves. And as I've traveled around, I've just recognized that people have lost hope. And so, in fact, the new book that we've written and is being produced right now is called Iron Hope. And it's because I believe that hope is life. And so my purpose now is to try to help as many people get out of their own way and gain that hope on their journey so they can start living and having these amazing experiences that are transformational.
And I think for me, it's ever changing. So, I mean, for different stages of my life, it has been certain things. And I am now at a stage where my kids are older and I always never know what's going to happen with James's career. It's always kind of a surprise. But so now I'm kind of seeking out a new purpose, you know? So I don't really know today. I knew 2 years ago.
Her purpose has been motherhood. Things
have changed. Well, and, you know, lots of things, like I did endurance racing and I've done, you know, like energy work for a long time. And I've done a lot of things, but I'm at a crossroads in my life right now where I'm kind of trying to decide what I want that to be, where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Well, me and you should do a challenge together, get them to plan it, see how it works.
No, I am not doing the challenge that he plans. No way.
On that, would you ever do a challenge together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so. I just think, like, people always said we'd be great at Amazing Race. You know, especially, and that was before James had all this extensive travel experience. But I'm like, you just wait to see what opportunities present themselves. With his career, they're so random. These random things come up that it's like, we just don't really know. So whatever presents
itself. Game ready.
Yeah, game ready. Just like we said, the opportunity presents itself. We're game ready.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And I've loved talking to you. It's been amazing.
Likewise. Thanks, Alana.
Thank you.